Books on Books on the Brain.
Welcome back to Books on the Brain, a podcast of books and nonsense. I'm Danielle.
I'm Deirdre.
And we are back again with another podcast episode. Yay!
Yay! And today, as you can see, we are joined by a very special guest. For any of you that are not familiar with Meg, this is Meg Hood. She is a bookish fantasy creator known as Meg's Tea Room and founder of Cozy Quill, a cozy fantasy publishing imprint and online community of cozy culture enthusiasts. She's known for being one of the first champions of the cozy fantasy genre through her early promotion of Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. These days, you'll find her serving up a warm cup and sharing Hope Core content in her fantasy tea room by day and cozying up with her husband and some Animal Crossing at night. Please welcome to the pod, Meg!
Hi,
Yay! I'm so happy to be here.
everybody! Cheer so loudly. Woo!
I love it. We're so excited to have you. Our
Oh,
listeners have no idea how long we have been fighting to get you on the podcast, and our schedules have just been fighting each other.
Yeah, I need to go back in our messages because I feel as though, has it been a year?
Probably.
Yeah, and it's just not lined up. This is so
Yeah.
perfect. I'm so happy we finally did it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, you guys, I need everybody to know I finally started the Percy Jackson TV show, and it is so wonderful.
Ooh, okay. I started it, but I have not finished because I heard season 2 takes a dive. Have you heard that?
I haven't, and I just finished season 1 like an hour
Okay,
ago.
oops, sorry.
No,
You're probably gonna
please.
love it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
No, I'm ready for anything. I mean, I sat through those 2 original movies and and have watched them multiple times, both of them.
You're a
So
survivor.
I feel
You've
like
done
I'm
your
ready.
time.
I'm ready for anything.
Yeah. That's so fun.
Keep me updated because I do want to. I need to finish it, but I was apprehensive because of the reviews I was seeing.
Okay. I feel like I was tapped in when it came out, like when it premiered, but then as the season was going, I kind of backed off because
Yeah.
I wasn't watching it. So I'm interested.
Mm.
So that's what's new in my life.
Yes, exciting. I'm trying to watch Survivor 50. That's what we're doing
Oh,
in my household.
Okay.
Trying to watch
Who are you
Survivor.
rooting for?
Here's the thing. I haven't watched like my family, my little sister is like a big Survivor person. We would
Okay.
watch Survivor like growing up, like my family would like record it on a VCR or VHS and we'd like watch it back on Friday nights. Was our vibe growing up. But I haven't watched it in years, so I don't really know anybody. I'm just there for the vibes. I am there for the vibes of everybody who's so old. So like in the first episode, it's like this guy threw out his back. This person got here and lifted it out. I'm like, oh, these poor people. Let them rest. Let them rest.
Let them rest. It's not
Please.
fair. I'm asking a lot of them.
And like one
Yeah.
guy does poop his pants, and I was like texting my little
Great.
sister, and she has a newborn, so she's been watching a lot of TV and doing mom things that are important. But I was like, the guy who pooped his pants, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, Survivor, obviously. What else do you think I'm talking about? Who else is pooping their pants?
And that's forever. That is just like
And
there
that's-
forever.
Now
Forever.
you're
That
poopy. Now you're poopy pants
is-
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he's known
Poopy
for.
pants man.
And
Who
he
they had
made
to
that
blur.
choice.
They had to blur his little bum as he walked off camera, which was great.
No.
Like his little bum, his little khaki pants. I was like, oh.
Tacky. Oh, yeah. And he made
man.
that
And
choice for himself. I don't have that much empathy. I don't know, but I haven't seen the scene, so maybe I should, but I don't at the same time because I'm like, you signed up for Survivor.
You did.
know what you're
Yeah. Again, because everybody
Again.
on 50 is returning,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, they
Too
are
much.
all.
So, like,
know.
Yeah.
Hubris.
Too much.
And
Find a way to
unfortunately,
close this gun.
whatever your reputation on Survivor was before this point is now
Yeah.
moot.
No, you're
Because you
no,
are the man
guys
that
up.
pooped his pants.
No.
Poopy pants man.
Poopy
You
pants
could
McGee.
have like solved so many world problems, but you are poopy pants man now.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry about
really
that.
is unfortunate. That's so unfortunate.
Someone in my building auditioned for Survivor, and their neighbor left a little post-it note in the like lobby area, and they were like, "We heard you recording your audition tape. We're so proud of you. We love Survivor. We're rooting for you. We really hope you get in." And I was like, "That is the cutest thing I've ever seen."
It's really cute, but also like, what if he wasn't actually recording his audition and that's just them assuming that? And they were
That's what
being
he was
really.
doing. I'm gonna assume because it's weird. It depends on how loud you're talking. I can sometimes hear my
Oh.
neighbors, and I'm assuming if he was like, "This is my audition for Survivor,
Oh.
blah blah blah," then
Yeah.
that's how they figured it out. So I'm
So
gonna
they're
choose to believe
sure.
that this person was actually auditioning.
Yeah, and it's not like OnlyFans content.
Which would be hilarious.
Honestly. And we hope he wins.
And we hope he wins. And we
You
hope
know
he
what?
wins.
We hope he does.
I'm hoping it's better than Poopy Pants guy. So
Yeah.
whatever it is.
That's true.
Whatever.
What's going on with you, Meg?
Oh, that's a great question. I wasn't prepared for this. Let's see, what's going on with me right now? I'll be really honest. I feel like I'm in a season of burnout. So I've been doing a lot of gaming, which has been lovely. I discovered the game Spiritfarer. Are you guys
Yes!
aware?
I love
Ooh.
Square.
Oh, it is consuming my heart. It's like this little young thing who has become the Spiritfarer in this world, and she has to kind of she meets all these spirits and has to guide them to the other side. And in the process of that, like they have to be ready before they're guided through the other side. And so she has to take care of them in the meantime on her little boat. And it's just very tender. You're doing a little farming. You're doing like a little baking and cooking and lots of fishing. Yeah. Lots. I'm doing a lot of fishing. And like little questing things, but it's very tender. The audio scape in that world is gorgeous and calming and just relax. It's the most relaxing to me game. I love it. And it's giving me a lot of life right now. Yeah. It's my little escape.
Love.
Spiritfarer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love.
It's a fun one.
I got a Switch 2 for Christmas.
Yeah.
My pride and joy and my love. But me and a friend were playing Split Fiction, which isn't it's not super, but it is cozy because it's like sci-fi and fantasy. It's like
Yep.
and it's bookish, and I was like, this is
Yep.
all my interests all intersecting. But we got to like the final chapter, and basically we cannot finish the game until we are in person now.
Oh no.
Of whatever because Switch 2 now is like this whole other thing where it's like you only can have a Switch 2 and only a Switch 2s can do like blah blah blah. And we're poor and we cannot sometimes. So we had to find like a way around it, but then the way around it's month trial ended. So we can't
Oh
finish the
no.
game. So I'm living in suspense of how this game ends. We'll have to wait and see.
Wow. Wow. That's really tough. Honestly, tough.
It's really hard
Yeah.
to be me with
Yeah,
with
no, that's
my
tough.
cool little new video game. Oh, it sucks.
Yeah.
Danielle is my gaming buddy. I do
Oh.
not game at all, but she keeps me abreast of all the crazy
I
games.
honestly didn't either until I took on this World of Warcraft ad. And I told them, I was like, I'm happy to do it as long as I can come at it as a person who has never gamed before. And I can be honest about my experience in World of Warcraft. And they agreed. And so for some reason, I had to get to level 10 in order to open up the housing thing that they needed me to do for the ad. So I had to actually play. Like I couldn't, there was no pretending or being like, watch me do this. I had to actually get to
Play
a
the
level.
game.
And so I learned so much about the mechanics of gaming through that. And then I became addicted because now it's just, I loved it. I had such a good time.
And the new Stardew update comes out soon. We are just being blessed this year.
Blessed.
Many
Cozy
things.
gaming. Heaven.
It
I
is the
love
place to be.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun.
I'll be there soon. One day.
One day, girl.
One day.
We'll get you
That's
there.
what I said too. Just wait. It'll come. And then
It's
you won't be
coming.
able to stop. Yeah.
Exactly. So, as you can see by the title of this video, we are going to get into some book reports, but first, we wanted to ask Meg a couple of questions because we do have the pleasure of your company. And you and I have known each other for quite some time.
Yeah.
now. Many, many moons.
Many
And
moons.
I cannot believe I've known you since before the tea room. Like that, getting to watch you invent this beautiful place on the internet and like come into who you are known as online has been such a delight for me, like as your friend and also as a viewer.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if you can tell our listeners, because maybe, I doubt it, maybe there are some people that are unfamiliar with your work. But what has this journey been like for you? And what made you initially decide to open your tea room? And then at the end of that, like what continues to inspire you to keep those doors open?
Mm. It has been sheer joy. It's just been like this coming back around to my childhood self and all the
Mhm.
things that I loved and celebrated and the things that lit me on fire and made me curious. It's like this reawakening of all of those things. And I never thought that's where this whole content journey was going to lead because like you said, it did not start here. It was originally Poppin' Pages. So I was
Hmm.
making cocktails for like all the top 20 books
Yep.
that, were popular at the time. And I go back and watch them and I'm like, oh baby. I was going really hard. And I was trying so many things, but that's the whole point, right? You throw
Yeah.
things at the wall and you see what lights you up and then lights up your audience. And then during the process of that, I was on Kindle Unlimited and I saw an ad or something came up for Legends and Lattes. And at the time,
Okay.
it was like the older, I think it's right there, the older cover,
Hmm.
with like the character of them on top. And at the time, that was a fresh cover. No one, that wasn't being done. That was
Right.
something that felt really new and looked very silly, at least for
Yeah.
me, who was reading like Shadow and Bone and ACOTAR, which no
Hmm.
shade to those books, but I was starting to expand my palette. And
Hmm.
I was like, how fun. This could be really fun to do a video on this. Like, what is this silly little book? This is
Hmm.
ridiculous. So I got the audiobook, thank God. And
Yeah.
it was Travis Baldree, obviously reading Legends and Lattes. And I knew it was as though something clicked in my spirit where I was like, oh, I'm home. This is the type of story that I have needed and I have looked for. I didn't know this type of story could exist. It was soft. I loved the concept of a story starting at the end of another story. We
Hmm.
meet Viv at the beginning where she's done with the adventuring and now she's coming, looking for a soft place to land. And that's what cozy fantasies feel like to me. That's what I kind of wanted to shift my content into is I wanted what I put out into the world to feel like that. And I had seen creators like Quincy's Tavern. I'm not sure if you're
Yeah.
familiar. Incredible. He kind of set the stage for all of us as tavern creators. But I saw his content and I loved it and was inspired by that. And I was like, okay, what could I do that feels similar and feels like the essence though of Legends Latte? So I did a silly one-off video where I pretended I was Viv and tried to do a British accent. Oh, it's so bad. It was so bad. I thought I had, oh gosh, it was so bad. But it clicked with the people that were following me and I just it was like we all kind of figured it out together at the same time. We were all like, "Oh, we love this." And so
Yeah.
it became this cozy little journey and I I don't know where it's leading, but I
Right.
don't really have a goal or even I wouldn't even say a dream with it, which sounds anti what we're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Like with our, but I don't know. This wasn't a thing 5 years ago. I didn't know
Yeah.
that this would be so I don't know what the next season of Meg's Team Room is going to be, but I, I think what keeps me going is the way that this genre has expanded and continues to expand and
Hmm.
diversify. So the stories are getting more and more exciting, which sounds contentious with cozy, but to me, cozy and exciting are the same thing. So I
Yeah.
love seeing how the genre's expanded and it gives us so much more opportunity to create. And it's just fun to live in a whimsical world during the week. Just
Yeah.
like make magic with people. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So
Isn't it
long.
fun to reach a place where you're like living in the moment of it and
Yeah.
not chasing something?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And I'll admit I do both. Like I go and I think that's when I
Sure.
start chasing is when I hit this burnout where I'm like,
Hmm.
too much. I gotta stop and I gotta just make magic. And that
Yeah.
needs to be the purpose is just to make magic, not to chase magic. I already
Yeah.
have it, you know? Yeah. I love it though.
And we love it. We
We
love
do
watching
love it.
Thank you.
I feel like so many people, I think with like the rise of, I don't know, coming out of like post pandemic and like
Yeah.
all these things that kind of pushed people towards online communities. Way more people have started not only like having an interest in like engaging with online content, but also creating their own online content. So I'm curious, what do you think is the biggest oopsie poopsie that people make when they start making content for the first time?
Oh man, that's a great question. Um, wow, the biggest oopsie. Honestly, I would say not experimenting. I
Mm,
think it's very tempting to go in and see other creators doing something and go, okay, I'll do that. And I think that's the best way to start is to see something that you resonate with and go, I can do something kind of like that. Because it gets you the reps,
yeah.
of just learning who you are in front of the camera and just practicing and getting it from feeling comfortable in your own body and your own words. But once you get a little bit comfortable, I think if we don't experiment and try some different things and you're never going to find what truly lights you up and what
Mhm.
will keep you creating because you're just going to be copying and you're not going to be, yeah, doing it out of a creation mindset. Um, and I see a lot of creators that are doing incredible just things now that we're not doing what they were doing before, like that they've
Mhm.
grown, especially in the book of space. I see it all the time. People are experimenting in so many different ways and getting creative in so many different ways on how they're sharing books. I know I saw Jason Easy Cat recently did a really cool one where he was talking about a book, but instead of showing his face and just holding it up, he was holding it was like over the camera was like on top of the book and he was like holding the book out. He was doing fun things with the book and flipping it over and showing the
Yeah.
edges and the inside while
Mm,
there was a voiceover and it was quick shots and quick cuts and then there was other books he was showing in the midst of that and there was something about it that immediately I was like this is different. This locked me in. I'm
Mhm.
interested in like what else does the book look like and I think experimenting and taking risks is so important. I know in my journey, that is what landed me here. If I didn't take the risk and just think, this is for me, this is for no one else, like this is
Yeah.
just to like, this makes me happy. I think making yourself happy before anyone else is the most important part because it's very easy to start thinking externally when you're making content and focus on the like the likes and the feedback. And then it starts becoming so external and about everybody and how they're receiving it
Yeah.
versus what you're actually putting out there and if you actually are connecting to it yourself.
mhm.
Um, and I think that's one of the most important things is you have to love it. You have to love what you're doing and love what you're speaking about, love the books you're reading, because if not, you're going to burn out so fast and it's not going to be fun.
And
You
people
want to
can
make it
tell.
fun.
People can tell
Yeah.
when your heart's not in it, right?
Yes. Yes, for sure.
I think
Does that
too.
make sense?
Oh, so it absolutely makes sense.
Okay.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
answer. I resonate with it, and I like it. It kind of spurred a thought for me about um, like the creation part of content creation and the creative part of it, and like how sometimes it gets sucked out of it because you're like, oh, I got this thing, and now I know it works, or like I have to do. Um, but the fun of exploration, the fun of just creating something and failing and being like, whoops, okay, that
Yeah.
didn't work. We'll try
Yeah.
again some other time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a beautiful thing that I feel like sometimes we don't afford ourselves that grace or that space to just futz around a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's scary because you're online for everyone to see. So
Yep.
it's
Right.
really scary, but I don't be afraid of being seen trying something. Like that's I
Yeah.
think one of the most beautiful parts of social media and one of the most one of the most captivating things that I like to watch is watching someone in process and watching
Mhm.
someone start somewhere and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, so we're gonna try this thing, and then you get to be along in the journey, like you were saying, Deidre, with my content. That's so special that I know that
Yeah.
you were there when I was experimenting throughout all these phases because you get to see the end result and then you feel connected even more so to the
Yeah.
creator because you were there for all their attempts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 9 times out of 10, they're going to try something new. And
Yeah.
your that parasocial relationship works crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. You said everything I would have said, so
Okay.
I have nothing to add.
Cool.
For anybody that is not familiar with our podcast, this is what we call a book report episode. So we have given Meg some homework and we asked her to come bring us a story. This is not your typical book report where we're going to be recapping books for you. We like to find some sort of bookish news. It could be a history, it could be a TLDR, it could be a recent article that you want to recap. And Danielle and I usually bring it to each other. We tell it to each other, we tell it to you. And we don't typically do a theme, but we did, because Meg is our guest today, put out a cozy theme for this week's episode. So I hope you have a lovely beverage or a snack and can get a little cozy with us. And we're each going to share our stories with each other. So who would like to go first?
Ooh.
I can go first if you'd like.
Want to go?
Or what is the vibe of yours? Everybody's. What's the vibe?
History.
History.
too.
History. Okay, mine's a little author highlight moment.
Ooh, fun.
Perfect.
So I can go first. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Okay. Okay, I'm so excited. When I think of cozy, and part of it might be because of where I am, like in my personal and professional life right now, I spend a lot of time reading a lot of children's books as an elementary school teacher. And also being a proud Canadian. There is one name that comes to mind when you think of cozy reading, Canadian, is Robert Munsch. He is a children's author. He is like kind of the biggest deal. Like every Canadian child knows Robert Munsch. And so I started doing some research about him because there had been an article that popped up about him in 2025 that people were kind of alarmed about. And he kind of got back into the news rotation a little bit. So I started doing some research on him and like his life in a little bit. And there's actually a section on his website where he writes the story of his life, which I think is so adorable and so sweet.
Great.
So I have pulled out little chunks of it that I'll read and I'll talk a little bit about him. But yeah, I was like, this man is so wholesome and so sweet and so cozy. But also like dealt with a lot of hard things in his life and is still trekking. So good for him. Okay. I will like try to do air quotes or something when it's him talking. Hopefully you'll be able to tell. If not, me and Robert could be the same person for this. We'll be the same. Amazing. So, Robert goes to say, I was born June 11th, 1945 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up in a family of 9 kids. At least that's where I was when I first was young. When I was 12, my older brother kicked me in the mouth the day after I got my braces off. He broke off some of my front teeth and knocked me out. My dad says I've been acting strange ever since. My mom says I've always acted strange. I almost flunked out of first grade and also the second, third, fourth, and fifth. But my younger brother was in a grade below me, and he was a brain, and nobody wanted me to have to be in the same grade as him, so they kept passing me. I never learned to spell, graduated from 8th grade counting on my fingers to do simple addition, and in general was not a resounding academic success. I did, however, all through elementary school, write poetry. Funny poems, silly poems, all sorts of poems. Nobody thought that was very important, including me. And when I went to high school, I didn't get along with anybody, read a lot of books, and decided to be a Catholic priest. So he goes on to talk about how he studied to be a priest for 7 years, which is crazy that like 2 of my favorite authors, John Green and Robert Munsch, both were trying to be priests, and then they were like, probably not. But just crazy coincidence. Anyway, so he talks about how he got an undergraduate degree in history and a master's degree in anthropology. And he goes on to say, a master's degree in anthropology isn't worth much, but that's what they give you when you flunk your orals in your PhD. And I said, still better than what I got, dude. So he goes on to talk about how he worked part-time in an orphanage, and how he really liked working with kids. And that's what made him decide to leave priesthood, priestetizing. Um, one of those.
Prestidigitation.
Yes, thank you. Design type. And he wanted to work in a daycare. So he went to school to do early child education kind of stuff. And that's where he came up with the book Mortimer. He talks about how he was doing circle time in one of his placement classes, and he just made up a story called Mortimer. And then it ended up taking 12 years to get published into a book. But it was just him making up a story to put to these kids in this circle, which is crazy that, like, I read that book with my class. And I'm like, that's so cool. Um, he talks about how because of his history and education and how he didn't feel like he was very successful with his academics, all of his stories were oral storytelling, was him telling stories to others, him hearing people's stories and making those stories. Um, and he eventually had like a long list of stories that he would tell, but he never wrote them down until he met his wife, who was also working at the daycare, Bo, daycare alert, and they both decided they wanted to move to Canada, which slay. And I know you probably were thinking, Danielle, you said he was born in Pennsylvania, but you also said he's Canadian. Yes. Hold on. So, so they end up in the University of Guelph, which is in Ontario. And the wife of his boss was a children's librarian and heard him telling these stories and was like, you should publish a book. And he was like, yeah, right. So then she told her husband, his boss, to tell him he should publish a book. And he was like, okay, fine, I'll do it, which is crazy. So he wrote down 10 stories and he sent them off to 10 different publishers. 9 said no and 1 said yes to the story Mud Puddle. And so then Mud Puddle sold 3,000 copies in its first year. So Anik Press has been his main publishing house for a very, very, very long time. And he basically quit his job at the university, started writing full time, became a Canadian citizen. That's where we come back to it, and lost his American citizenship. And he says it was nice to be part of only one country. And I said, I'm sure there's a lot of Americans who wish they could be you right now, Mr. Munch. Yep. I kept using real kids as characters in my books, even though I was not working in daycare or preschool anymore. The first kid, I made up a story of its own sorts and gets to be the kid in the book. So the first kid he meets that has the idea gets to be the kid that he features in the book. If the story ever gets to be a book, if my publisher did not like this because it meant I changed the characters for each book. So there was no continuity of like, this is the Fancy Nancy character, or this is the Pinkalicious character. All of Robert Munch's stories are different children that he has met along his career, which is so cute. He talks about how he started writing his books he would travel all across Canada and he couldn't afford to really stay in hotels, so he would stay with families as he would travel with his books across the country. So when he would stay with these families, he would hang out with the kids of the family, and then he would get inspirations to write his next story. So he talks about specifically how he stayed with one family in the Northwest Territories and he got Moira's birthday out of it. And it was just him not having enough money to stay in a hotel, and families were gracious enough to be like, yeah, we like your books, come stay with us, which is so cool. Really? He also talks about how he made Moira's birthday, Makeup Mess, and Smelly Socks in the same day in 1983.
Oh, wow.
What is that? What that family must have been so interesting. He's like, hold on, I gotta write this down. Good for him. So funny. So then he talks about his cult classic, I Love You Forever, or Love You Forever, which came out as a Canadian book in 1986. When it was written as a memorial for his 2 stillborn children that him and his wife had earlier, or the later 1970s, early 1980s. And he really wanted the story to be a book. It was originally a song that he wrote. He wanted it to be a book. And his publishers weren't really interested, so he changed publishers. He's like, I really want to sell this. And then it sold 30,000 copies in the year that it was published. And it was the best-selling kids book in Canada. And then 70,000 the next year, and then it sold 1 million the next year, and it became the best-selling kids book in Canada for that year. And then he goes on to say, and the strange thing was, it was also the best-selling kids book in the USA, only no one knew it, including me. It never occurred to me that it could be an invisible bestseller. Then in 1984, the New York Times did an update to their list of best-selling children's books that they had done in 1978. They did not update the list often since it was very stable. Goodnight Moon had been number one since forever. They
Come on.
found I Love You Forever at the top of the list with 8 million copies sold.
Wow.
It had 18 million as of 1999. This is very strange as they've never reviewed it, did not know it existed, and it was a Canadian foreign title that did not even have a US publisher or distributor. Somebody from the Times called me up and wanted to know, who are you? Which I thought was crazy. So then he had this pattern of he puts out 2 books a year, and he has over 70 books published right now. And he talks about three strange things about him that I'll talk about really quickly. Number 1, he says, I visit daycares and schools for free and usually do not tell them that I'm coming. Like a book tour in California in October of 1997, I looked at a map and figured out where I was going to be was near a school that had written to me. And I have a really good secretary who keeps track of all the letters that he gets, so he decided to drop in. I took along the letter the class had written to me and showed it to the school secretary and said, look, Miss Klebanoff's class in grade 2 asked me to visit. I showed the letter to the secretary because one of the jobs of the secretary is to keep weird people out of the school, and I wanted her to know I was not a weird person. The secretary decided I was not weird and wanted to call Mrs. Klebanoff and tell her I was coming, but I convinced her to let me go and just knock on the door. So I went, knocked on the door of Miss Klebanoff's grade 2 class and said, Hi, I'm Bob Munch. Remember me? You asked me to come and visit when you wrote me last year. Miss Klebanoff just stood there and didn't say anything, so I tried again. I said, Hi, I'm Bob Munch. I'm from Canada. Your class wrote me a letter and asked me to come and visit, and I was driving by on the Ventura Freeway, and I came by for a visit, and do you want me to tell some stories to your class, or should I go back to Ventura Freeway and stop bothering you? And Miss Klebanoff said, Canada? Bob Munch? Stories? And then she finally figured out and yelled, Kids, drop everything. We have a visitor. Then this really neat thing happened. The principal came running in the door and said, I don't believe this, Mr. Munch. You have to visit kindergarten. They just finished a big letter that they had started yesterday. It is to you. Why don't you go and pick it up and save them the stamps? So I went to kindergarten, told them stories, got my letter. The kids thought it was very nice of me to come down from Canada to pick up their letter. So sweet. That's strange thing. Number one
Tender
about him.
man.
It's like he's just the sweetest guy in the whole freaking world. He's just got
And
that.
unfortunately, it would not happen today.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, that could never work. But that's
No.
so tender. And then that's
Just
It's
yeah.
so
imagine
lovely,
showing up.
but
I got a
Yeah.
letter. They'd be like, okay, cool. Police.
Yeah.
no, literally.
I want to read to your children. Like,
Yeah.
no.
No.
Oh man. Another time.
Another
Yeah.
time, another place,
Another
different
time.
context.
Hmm.
Maybe in Canada. It could maybe still happen in Canada. I don't know.
Maybe.
Okay. Strange thing number 2 about Robert Munch. I still like to stay with families. When I was a prize of the Scholastic US book clubs, they thought I would fly to the winning school and tell stories for an hour. Instead, I called the winning teacher and told her to choose 2 kids by lottery and I would stay with their families. And that is how I came to stay with Brittany Edwards in Georgetown, South Carolina, and this is how this conversation took place. Brittany.
Boy.
My great-granddad broke both his arms. Bob. Both? Brittany. Yes, he fell out of the back of the truck while he was trying to shoot a deer. Bob. Oh, is he okay now? Brittany. Yes, he got tired of the casts and had my cousin come over and saw them off so he could go hunting. Bob. Do you think that's a good idea? Brittany. Yes, they just put the cast on him because he's old. Bob. So how old is he? Brittany. 101. And that led me, Robert Munch, not Danielle, to telling the story Brittany's grandfather, which will be a book someday. I would never have thought of a story of a kid visiting our 101-year-old granddad. And then he talks about how he wrote A Promise is a Promise, which is a book, an Inuit book based on like an Inuit legend, and how he got to experience eating raw frozen caribou and how he never thought this would happen and all these things. He goes on to say, this part is very sweet. In 1999, I stayed with a family in Sydney, British Columbia. They lived out in the middle of a coastal rainforest, and the kids happily dragged me through several kilometers of forest and swamp. which they felt was their backyard. Their real backyard was fenced and had 4 large dogs whose job was to eat any mountain lions that happened to jump the fence. We saw no mountain lions on our walk, and I don't know if any mountain lions saw us. The whole purpose of the expedition was to climb Mount Everest. Mount Everest turned out to be a small rock knob. When we climbed it, there was a clear view. It was the fenced backyard of their house. I told John, age 8, that it seemed there was a shorter way to Mount Everest, and he said, "It's not Mount Everest if you come that way." I think he's hit on some sort of universal truth here. John's rule. Where you are depends on how you get there, which is the story of my life and yours too. Oh, come on. And then he talks about his weird, strange third fact, is that sometimes he makes up stories on airplanes. He said, once I sat near a child named Tamina, who had a backpack full of dolls. I made up a story, introduced myself to her mother, and asked if I could tell the story. The mother said, okay, so I told Tamina the story. Now the story is going to be my next book. And we're still arguing about its title. It might be Tamina's Dolls or Toy Attack or something else, but stay tuned. I had trouble finding Tamina to tell her about the book. Finally, my editor found her on the internet. She has moved to Europe. So then at the bottom of this story that he had, and this is obviously from a few years ago because a lot has changed in his life, but at the very bottom of the chunk, he talks about, he has a note to parents. He goes, I'm a storyteller. I write books for kids, I talk to kids, I listen to kids. But that is not all I am. Several years ago, I was diagnosed as obsessive compulsive and manic depressive. Those challenges have led me to make some big mistakes. I've worked hard to overcome my problems and have done my best. I've attended 12-step recovery meetings for more than 25 years. My mental health and addiction problems are not a secret to my friends or family. They have been a big support to me over the years, and I would not have been able to do this without their love and understanding. I hope that others will also understand, and I hope that everyone will talk to their kids honestly, listen to them, and help them do their best with their own challenges. So, this beautiful thing that he wrote about his own life that I'm crying as I'm reading. He has been inducted into the Order of Canada. He has a star in the Canadian Walk of Fame, which is a thing that exists. He has 2 public schools named after him in Ontario. And he also has the dubious honor of being the most stolen author of the Toronto Public Library system, which I think is really funny. And this is the part that gets a little sad. Sorry, guys. In October 2021, Munch announced that he had been diagnosed with dementias and Parkinson's and could no longer write. Following this diagnosis, he applied for medical assistance in dying, so MAID, and received approval in September of 2025, which is why his names came up in the press. His daughter clarified that the approval did not mean his death was imminent, but that the decision regarding it was made 5 years prior. In December 2025, Munch revealed that he still had about 50 unpublished stories, hoping to have one be illustrated and released each year following his death. So wow. He's still alive, he's still kicking. He's not writing anymore, but he's still this bright light in Canadian culture and Canadian classrooms. As a Canadian child, I grew up reading a lot of Robert Munch books, and it's my greatest pleasure to read them to my class because they're the funnest, most animated books. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight this really, really cool guy who had some tough times in his life, but also made a lot of people happy. So that's my book report.
What a whimsical man. It's so funny, Danielle, because I'm there's something so dark in my spirit or something that I need to work through because the whole time I'm waiting for the ball to drop on this man.
And he's dead.
People in their homes. And I'm when's it coming? No. Oh, this is here we go. And then you're oh no.
I was he found people to stay through the Scholastic book clubs. My parents would have been hell no. Get out.
This was the 80s in Canada. Come on. Things were we are a friendly folk up here. We are friendly folk. We're not murdering each other.
Sweet, though.
It is sweet.
Yeah, it really is sweet. He was loved interacting with children. He really had a heart for kids, and I think that's beautiful and so cozy.
And it's so it's so sweet when I don't know how much time you've spent reading Robert Munch books, but I've spent a lot of time. But at the beginning or at the end of all of his books, there's a little bio about whoever the book is based on. So whatever child he's talked to.
Sweet.
And
How
you can tell
special.
it's like all these different cultures, all these different people that he
Yeah.
gets to meet. Um, they're just like he's just the coolest guy. He's just the coolest guy. And he is making some he made some like really great choices about like advocating for himself and his health and his diagnoses and like planning his
Mhm.
future and what's important to him. And I'm just like I think he's just the coolest guy.
Yeah. And the way that I think about him wanting to have books still coming out each year, I mean, that's like taking care of
Yeah.
his family
Yeah,
is basically what
absolutely.
he's doing with that. I think that's incredible. That's incredible. And yeah, I Love You Forever went triple platinum in my house growing up. We were one of those 80s babies that had that book. Yeah, for
Heck,
sure.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. My sister just had a baby and the baby got so many copies of Love You Forever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay,
The
still
classic.
kicking.
Still a little
Still
creepy
kicking.
when he climbs in
Still
the
a little,
window, but it's fine.
still a little creepy. Still a
Go in
little
the front
creepy.
door. It's your mom. Just saying.
Canada, 80s, different context.
Canada,
We're all
80s.
friendly. We don't lock our doors. It's
No
very
one would lock
different
their
here.
door. Crawling on the floor. Ooh, that was great.
I know, well done.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you feeling any type of way, Meg? Do you want to go now? Do you want to go last?
I'll go last. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm a
perfect.
little nervous about mine.
No,
Oh my
don't
God,
be
don't be
nervous.
nervous.
Okay. Okay.
You did get a little puppet show in mine. A little
I know, I
animated
really
puppet show.
enjoyed that.
It was
Thank,
animated. It made me happy.
thank you.
So I feel like we can all appreciate a good book cover, and I don't know about you guys, but I definitely judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
I have been known to do that time and again. There's really nothing quite like browsing in a bookstore and letting the covers guide you, from telling you about the genre you're going to step into and maybe a little bit about the book, though some covers feel so minimal that it's quite difficult to decipher what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And the cover style that has currently captivated me, and many romance readers, I feel like it's coming up a lot in the romance space, is the classic clinch cover. So for my book report, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of clinch covers, and
Give it
mostly
to me.
I want to highlight a few of the artists that made this book cover style so iconic, because in my research there were like three artists that really kept coming up again and again and again. So clinch covers really came to be in the 70s and 80s, and they continued the continued rise of the mass market paperback, the sexual revolution, and publishing's realization that women had money to spend on books, and were, had spending power, all culminated in this period of publishing. Like it was just all these beautiful things coming together to create the clinch cover. And the first cover that has been attributed as being the first clinch is The Flame and the Flower by Catherine E. Woodwiss, or Woodowis? I'm not
Mhm.
quite sure. Say her last name. It was published by Avon, and at least in my research, people can feel free to tell me that this is incorrect. Robert McGinnis is highlighted by HarperCollins on their website as being the creator for the cover. There is a book titled The Paperback Covers of Robert McGinnis, which might have more information, but I could not get it online. So I could not fact check that book. In this cover, the title takes up the majority of the cover with a very
Okay.
small vignette that goes across the front and just under like halfway down the cover. And yeah, there it is.
Oh my
Well,
God.
so that's a different cover. The
Oh,
original
okay.
one has like a band across that's got like a little scape and then two people embracing in the middle.
No.
Different.
So many of them. Okay.
There's
Okay.
so
Keep going.
many. And then the author's name is at the bottom.
Okay, crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Where am I going? I lost my place.
This one?
Yes, that's it.
Cool.
And this style of cover seems to be the transition style for the clinch, where the covers are starting to become more interesting. Before they were just like title and name, maybe like a little illustration on it, but not people embracing in a heated moment. And it's not quite the full-blown bodice ripper that we get to at the height of clinch.
Yeah.
So we've come to our first artist, Robert McGinnis. Robert started working for an advertising art studio in Cincinnati, eventually moving to New York to work for a more well-known advertising studio alongside some other prolific advertising artists by the late 1950s. He began working on book cover illustrations, and one of his most popular and like well-known pieces is the poster for Breakfast at Tiffany's. He is the illustrator of
Oh, yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Iconic.
But in his career, he created over 1,200 book covers, all from different genres. So he kind of came from like gothic novels and then into romance, but then was also doing a bunch of different stuff. It was a little unclear, and maybe this is more clear in his book, whether he was working for an ad agency that was being hired by publishers or if he was like an in-house artist for some of these publishers, specifically HarperCollins for a really long time. Robert's background was in fine art, which he studied at Ohio State University. And for anybody that's unfamiliar with this form of illustration, the image is a painting that was then mass produced either on posters, advertisement, or book covers. It kind of started with movie posters, then moved into magazines, and eventually book covers. So it's so cool that like these different mediums all come together to form this like beautiful piece of art that we get to enjoy. And there's something about the like painting aspect of these covers. Like they're just so lush and have so much depth to them. And I feel like that's why people come back to them. Yes, some of them are quite crazy in what they're depicting, but they're also just beautiful pieces of art in their own right. The small vignette covers soon gave way to the full cover clinch, often featuring perfectly posed couples with one or both parties being precariously covered to partially hide their nudity, or if they were clothed, their companion were held in so much tension. And sometimes the composition, like for the gothic romance novels, like somebody's running away from the other person. So there's tension regardless of what the pose is. And I think that's also what gets people to look at these covers so much is like there's a heightened sense to them. So I found that along with McGinnis, there were two other illustrators often recognized at the height of the clinch cover era, H. Tom Hall and Elaine DeWillow. There were a couple others, so I'm certainly not trying to diminish anybody else. These are just the people that were coming up again and again, and I only have a couple of minutes. So H. Tom Hall is known for creating the first full-page clinch covers for Shanna, which is also by Catherine E. Woodwis, where a couple in the middle of some dense foliage is framed by flowers in a very passionate embrace, and it is the full cover image. Hall produced covers for many publishing houses, including Playboy Press, who were one of the presses that really made clinch covers happen. Yes, that's it.
Womp womp.
Womp womp womp, as well as Avon, Bantam, and Reader's Digest.
Love Interview with a Vampire.
Yes, I was just about to say.
Sorry.
One of his most well-known covers is the OG Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. It's so good.
Come on.
Sexy.
Like I used to own Interview with a Vampire. I couldn't really get into it, and I wasn't like.
And I can't
"Ooh,
blame
wanna
you, girl.
keep
I
this."
cannot blame you.
It was like one of the newer covers, so I wasn't like, oh, I'm tied to having this. If I found one of those OGs out in the world, that is coming home with me.
Yeah, no lie.
And then rounding out our trio of artists is Elaine DeWillow, whose career started in 1959 when she was illustrating adventure story magazines and gothic novel covers. What makes these covers stand out, besides the images they depict, is that while, yes, you can line up 3 different covers and they all look the same, quote unquote, each artist ends up bringing their own style to the cover, creating something unique for their body of work. So, like, you could line up all of Elaine's covers, and yes, they look pretty similar because it's the same artist, but you could line up all 3 of these artists next to each other, and they're creating a genre, but there's something different because it's 3 different artists with their own creative style. So DeWillow became a force in clinch covers and eventually went on to capture one of the best known romance cover stars, Fabio.
Hey.
She is known for depicting Fabio. Yeah. DeWillow also experienced the shift in romance covers because while many clinch covers are proudly displayed on the front and sometimes back, by the end of the 1980s and into the 90s, the step back was gaining popularity, creating the discreet cover. So it would be a little bit more of a discreet cover. You'd open the book and then bam, you might get like a 2-page spread or just a 1-page spread of this artwork. And now this excitement lived on the inside of the pages rather than the outside for the whole world to see, which we can go on a whole rant about purity culture and how that is currently seemingly happening in the romance genre again. So all of these illustrators and covers created a lasting impact not only on the world of romance, but in the history of book covers as a whole. And as I said, even the life cycle of the clinch cover shows that trends rise, fall, and will eventually rise again.
I love it.
That's it. That's all I
This is
got.
so good. Oh
I
man.
I love them. They're so beautiful.
They are.
And
They are. It makes me want to go to my local, there's this bookstore here called McKay's, and it's like a warehouse of just used
Okay.
books. And every day people are coming in with piles of stories. And it makes me, they have a really good romance aisle. And now I'm like, I want to go in there and see if I can actually appreciate, because I feel like I haven't actually walked through and appreciated these covers the way I should.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
My friend Erin just posted a video. She bought a like box on Etsy of a lot of like historical romance books, and she like unboxed it on camera, and it's these incredible clinched covers, and it's like so it's as many as would fit in like 2 bags in this box, and it was $6. Of course.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There's definitely like beware when you're stepping into these historic romance spaces because native romances were very, very popular, and
Yeah.
like there's quite a lot of depictions that are not correct. And we just have to acknowledge that they exist and they existed and were happening. And just know that when we step into those spaces, that is also going to be there waiting for you, like a little jump scare.
Yeah.
But I don't think it necessarily takes away from the art that was created.
Yeah.
Agreed. Very cool.
Yeah.
Love.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready now. I feel ready now. Okay, so I did a little pivot because I know originally I was like, I got to keep it bookish, but then I freed myself of that chain and said, no, 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 no. I am a tea influencer as well. And so
Yeah.
I thought I would introduce you guys to my favorite tea influencer, and that is Duchess of Bedford Anne Russell.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
She's my favorite. I love her. Now, whether this story is true or not has been debated, and it's still being debated. I'm gonna choose to believe it because it makes me happy. But just in case, just know this might not actually be true.
Okay.
It's lore. This is the lore. So let's go back to, we're in early 1800s. We're in Queen Victoria's reign. Okay, set the scene. Anne Russell was this lifelong friend to Queen Victoria. She served as her lady of the bedchamber, which basically means she was like the head bitch in charge. I can curse, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Please do.
She was like the royal version of like the head butler for the queen, basically. So she would relay, any of the queen's wishes to all the other women or just handle things herself. She was very important, very influential figure during Queen Victoria's reign. Kind of like Queen Charlotte's relationship with Lady Danbury. That's how I pictured it.
Mhm.
Just had her ear.
Yeah.
So she had power, she had influence, and my favorite thing about her is she was a hangry girly. She
Good.
was hungry. She wanted to eat. We love that for her. So,
Yes.
legend says that she was visiting this neighboring castle one week, and traditionally at this time, luncheon was around, early. It was 11 to noon. It was a light meal. It wasn't much to eat. And then dinner was a big affair, and it was 8 or 9. So they had this huge chunk of time in between where these people were not eating and they were corseted. Crazy. So they had this gap between two meals, and the Duchess became rather peckish around 4 o'clock in the afternoon one day, and she asked for tea with bread and jam and butter and cake to be brought to her bedchamber. We love her,
Yeah.
right? Amazing. Um, but this was not the norm. However, I know there was some debate about this because it said in my research that it was not the norm. I saw many things like articles that were talking about how it was like this was not how it went. But then I saw a few that talked about how actually that's not true in Bath and other kind of resort wellness spaces of the day. This was something they were feeding them regularly. So I take it what you will. Again, this is all legend and lore. Um, so Duchess Anne made this little ritual a norm in her home. She loved it so much when she was visiting that she was like, no, this is what we do now. We have our little
Mm.
afternoon tea and we invite our friends in. And then she eventually even invited the Queen to attend her little tea service. She was also known as this gossip. Obviously, again, she had the Queen's ear. She was the head bitch in charge. She got a lot of information. So she would use this mini meal to gather intel on other members of court.
Yes.
She was a
Hell
lady
yeah.
of strategy. But she was like kind of a mean girl. She was brutal. So, for example, there was this one woman in court named Lady Flora, who had a bump on her abdomen. And so
Ruh-roh.
Anne Russell spread this rumor that Lady Flora had gotten pregnant out of wedlock. Come to find out, she had cancer.
No.
And she died a few months later. But she died like ruined.
Yeah.
Her life was ruined because of Anne Russell's mouthing off on her. Is that not crazy?
The tea was
Hey,
too hot.
She had to live with that. She had to live
you
with that.
know, you know how we shouldn't be commenting on women's bodies? Crazy how that's like
Exhibit A.
Tale as old as
crazy.
time. Truly.
Crazy. Women were doing this for years. Anyway,
That's crazy.
Centuries even.
yeah, centuries. So oof. So we love her. We think she's great. She was it's rumored that she was the creator of the afternoon tea experience, but she also was a little brutal. But it began to spread that afternoon tea because of her influence, and soon it became the fashionable thing to do through the country. It was a way also for these women to kind of flaunt their wealth. So you would show up and it would be a way for them to show off their cooks or their tableware. So pretty quickly, the service went from like bread and jam to these elevated patisseries and fine china that we see today when we go to afternoon tea. It wasn't always like that. And the Queen herself began an afternoon tea reception as well, pretty soon after this. And that kind of stamped in the tradition that continues even into today. Although many market it now as high tea. That's kind of what we see when at least in the US, they're like, come to high tea. And we go to this fancy, hotel and we dress up a little bit. And there's a pianist and they're serving it on like 3-tier trays.
Yes.
That was actually the high tea back then was the working class. That was like the commoner's meal. It was like tea and a hearty meal around 5 or 6 p.m. What you wanted to do if you were of wealth and aristocratic, you wanted low tea, which was a late afternoon snack, like Anne Russell says, at low, intimate little tables. So we think it's high tea, actually, you want low tea. Um, so I said my takeaway from Duchess Anne is one woman's I need a little treat became an entire cultural institution. Never underestimate the power of a well-fed woman, a cup of tea, and a mild grievance.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
Anne Russell.
Oh, excellent.
So fun.
Yeah.
There,
Afternoon tea.
There is nothing like a good afternoon tea.
Oh, come on.
The girls just want to gab and the girls want to eat. And
We
that's
want a snack.
Exactly.
We want a
just
little
want a
treat.
snack.
gab.
We want a little gossip, but we don't want to ruin anyone's life.
Like we're not gonna go we're not gonna go that far.
No.
Not
But we will
life-ruining.
beat the dead horse
We will.
over, a Darjeeling.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, we
A
will.
little cucumber sandy.
Yeah.
Very much. That is so funny.
I know.
So sweet. Great job, everybody. Yay!
I know.
We did it.
It's so funny how every time Danielle and I don't give each other a prompt and somehow they end up like meshing really well together. I feel like these 3 stories make a lot of sense
They do.
in tandem with each other.
Yeah, they're all
Good
history.
job.
Kind of
Good
fun.
job, everybody. Okay, so now we're going to pop into our final segment of the podcast. What's everybody currently reading? I can go first.
Yeah, go,
Okay.
Queen, go.
I kind of just want to get out of the way. So I recently finished The Enchanted Greenhouse by
Ooh.
Sarah Beth Durst. I kept hemming and hawing about whether I was going to talk about a cozy book or not, and then I was like, you know what? You literally just finished this. Might as well.
Come on.
So for anybody that doesn't know, this is the sequel to The Spell Shop. And in The Spell Shop, we meet this librarian who is running from revolution, and the city that she lives in is quite literally being burnt to the ground. And she puts a bunch of books from the library on crates. She takes this little sentient snake plant and runs away to an island.
Mhm.
And she has a whole adventure on this island. It is a delightful, delightful book. I have some grievances with the ending, but that is just me. And,
Fair.
and now Sarah has brought us back to the world, but from a different perspective. So, like I said, our first librarian has this sentient plant that she meets in the library. Where did this plant come from? Enter, I have to remind myself of her name. I know it starts with a T.
We were all
What?
wondering where the plant came from, so this is the obvious sequel that we needed.
So Turlu is a librarian. She stumbles across some magical spells and brings this snake plant to life. Now, if you were not a sorcerer, you should not be participating in magic. So she is sentenced to become a statue. And she is essentially made an example of because she's put in the library, and then her story is told to other librarians like, do not practice magic. How dare you think you are above the law? Then one day, she wakes up. She is no longer a statue because she didn't die. She's been a living statue, just sort of like frozen for several years.
Yoinks.
When she wakes up, it is cold. She's alone. She doesn't know what's going on, but she sees a greenhouse. And so she goes toward it, and she ends up finding the greenhouse keeper. And she comes to find out that this man thinks she is a sorcerer who has been sent to save him and the dying greenhouses that have been like ultra magicked by this sorcerer who no longer exists. And Turlu has so much trauma from doing magic that she's like, no, a sorcerer, I am not. I am just a librarian. But then you kind of find out how she got sent to this island. We know what's going on at the Capitol because we've read the first book, but she doesn't know that there's a revolution happening because nobody told her that. And also, they're on a remote island. They're not getting news like that. And we get to meet some more sentient plants. Turns out sentient plant magic is like a thing in this world. And we just get to see a cutie little romance, and some people find their place in the world. And I love the way Sarah crafts her books, like the voice she gives her characters, the way she creates so much depth in them, and the depth of her world. I like keep one toe in cozy fantasy. Like I love it, but as a high fantasy girl,
Yeah.
I'm always craving like the most. And I do feel like I get a lot of what I crave in fantasies from Sarah's books. And I just had such a delightful time with this. I flew through it. Couldn't put it down.
Yay.
Great
Would
rec.
would recommend. I'm excited to read her new book.
No, The Faraway Inn.
The Faraway Inn. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got it downstairs. I'm like, ooh, next.
Very cool. I'm not reading something cozy currently. I'm reading a book called A Game in Yellow by Haley Piper. It's a horror book. What? She's starting her horror journey in 2026. I'm a huge horror nut, but like only movies. So I'm like, and like I can do some gothic. I can do like Ava Reed, kind of like gross weird. But
Yeah.
I was like, I took a very famous trip to the good bookstore and just picked books that I like the cover of. So this is one of them. And it's honestly it's a really cool concept. It's about this woman named Carmen who's like kind of in a dead end job, not really loving her life. She lives with her partner Blanca, and their sex life is just kind of like meh right now. Like things aren't like working out for them. They're not like feeling the spark they used to. And so Blanca finds this woman named Smoke who has this like Cthulhu-esque eldritch horror play that if you read the play, you were like driven to the point of insanity, but you have to pull yourself out of it before you become mad. And then you feel euphoria, and then it's like this sense of living. And so Carmen and Blanca go, it's like it takes place in Manhattan, and they're like, we go to this like speakeasy bar, and then we go to the basement, and then we go to the sub basement, then we're in like the New York City subway tunnels. And I was like, okay, I'm there.
Okay.
I'm having fun.
All
It's scary. And so they meet this woman named Smoke. She's like, here's this play, A King in Yellow. And there's like excerpts of the play in the novel as well. So you get to slowly read more and more about the play as you read. It's just weird. It's just a weird little book. But it's kind of fun, and it's quite short, and it's fun to have a little change of pace and um have a strange little book, which I really appreciate. Like, come on, how fun does that? And the cover is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a really cool cover.
Fun alert, just fun. And it's queer women doing crazy things.
Let's
Wow.
go. Awesome. On the topic of queer women, hold on, let
Doing
me get the
crazy
book that I'm reading. Doing crazy things. Actually, these women aren't doing crazy things, they're doing very cute things. I am reading currently The Keeper of Magical Things by Julie Leong.
Oh.
So Julie Leong, she wrote The Teller of Small Fortunes, which is I loved that story. It's such
Me too.
like a classic cozy fantasy. Like if you just want to live in a cozy fantasy world and have that cozy fantasy experience, I recommend it all the time as kind of a beginner book. This is no exception. I'm loving it so far. It's such a whimsical, sweet story. She reminds me a lot of Sarah Beth Durst in the way, um, just the personalities of the characters and the tenderness and like just the magic systems are really fun. But basically, it follows a young woman named Certainty. Loved that also, by the way. Best name ever. Her name's Certainty, and she is in this mage program, this mage school situation, and she has these small magics, kind of very similar to Teller's Small Fortunes, where she can't do any of the big mage things. They won't even let her be a mage because all she can do is talk to inanimate objects and just kind of like figure out what they do or what their enchantment is. So she'll like pick up a box or, a teapot and be like, what is it you do? And then they'll whisper back to her what their enchantment is. So not very useful, kind of useful sometimes, but not something that they really need in the mage, program.
Yeah.
And so there until one day they like the head of the mage, I wish I don't know all the politics of it. The head of this place, they basically call her in and say, there's all these magical objects that are enchanted. They're all useless. None of them actually work. They're not great. We need them to be transported and inventoried. So they give her a very small task to do, and they say, if you can do this successfully, we'll make you a mage. And she's like, yes. But she is paired with I think her name's Aurelia, if I remember correctly. I keep calling her okay. Aurelia, who is basically the grumpy to her sunshine, right? Very just she's very stiff as a mage. She's kind of the mage bully. Not bully, she's very distant from everyone else. She doesn't want anything to do with anyone. She just kind of keeps her head down, does her job. Everyone's very intimidated by her, don't like her. She's very unlikable.
Okay.
And so they basically go on this journey and start to go and discover these little, inanimate objects and things and try to inventory them. And they end up in this kind of dilapidated town that's lost all its magic. And then slowly certainty starts realizing that these enchanted objects that are useless maybe where they're at are actually very helpful in reviving the spirit of this town. And it just all of a sudden becomes very wholesome and sweet and generous, and them two working together. And yeah, there's a lot of internal conflict as cozy fantasy goes. The outside threat is not large, but it is very tender. It also has a cat that just got like bat wings, like dragon wing, like a cat dragon, which is very cute. And yeah, it's just very sweet. It's just like Julie Leong. It's exactly what you expect. It's very sweet. A great cozy fantasy so far. I'm halfway through and I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.
Ooh, I have to check it out. That sounds
Good.
great. I loved The Teller of Small Fortunes.
It
was so delightful. But I cried. Wept like a baby.
I know. This one I'm like, I don't know if I'll cry, but the romance is sweet too. Yeah, it has a sapphic romance going on, and again, Grumpy Sunshine, where you dig deeper and you're like, oh, she's grumpy for a reason, I love that. I love it.
Before Danielle cut this out, we have unfortunately reached the end of our episode. Thank you so much, Meg, for joining us. If any of our listeners have not stumbled into your tea room before, where can they find you? What have you got going on?
You can find me at Meg's Tea Room everywhere. So I'm on YouTube now. I'm trying to put out long form videos more and more. I'm still kind of figuring out what that looks like and how the short forms I do translate into long form. But there's some really great cozy like Pomodoro style videos where if you just need to get a task done, I kind of am mirroring you and doing tasks alongside you, which is really fun. And then I'm on Instagram and TikTok, and yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm also with Bindery. So I know you mentioned at the beginning, I have a publishing imprint called Cozy Quill, and that's has a membership kind of portion to it too, where you can join for free. And I have a cozy Discord where we just talk all things cozy gaming. There's D&D things that are happening in their campaigns. There's live events. We're doing like a movie night with the Ghibli movie this week, and we do co-working, cozy co-working in the middle of the week sometimes, and silent book clubs, and that's kind of where everything is at. And then we have our next book coming out for Cozy Quill, which is a cozy romantasy called Twig's Traveling Tomes. And it releases in September, but pre-orders are happening right now, so you can absolutely get it on pre-order. It's going to be a really fun one.
I am desperate to get my hands on it. I'm like,
it's just like it's very just like cutie whimsical romp, just very silly and fun. Yeah, it's lighter than air. You're gonna have a great time.
Love, amazing. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you want to follow Danielle and I on our personal accounts and keep up with what we are doing outside of the podcast, I'm at Deirdre Rose Morgan on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and I am Enchanted Echoes also on Bindery.
And I'm DJ Books on TikTok, Instagram, and on Threads.
That is it for this week's episode. We will chat to you in the next one. Thank you again, Meg, for joining us, and we hope you have a very cozy week.
Yay!
Bye!
Fun alert!